Call to order the Gurnee Village Board regular meeting of July 7, 2025. Roll call, please.
Garner.
Here.
O'Brien. Present. Balmas.
Present.
Thorstensen.
Here.
Woodside.
Present.
Ross.
Here.
6 present.
You all stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody. The first item that's on the agenda is the public comments. If there's an item on the agenda that you'd care to speak about, you may step up to the microphone and state your name. There being none, on to the approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion by trustee Balmas, second by trustee O'Brien. Roll call, please.
Garner.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Balmas.
Aye.
Thorstensen.
Yes.
Woodside.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
6 aye.
Motion carries. Pat?
Item number 1, approval of the minutes from the June 16, 2025 meeting. Item number 2, approval of police department request to send Sergeant St. Clair and Detective Silvernail to the Taser Master Instructor School from October 6 through 10, 2025 in Columbus, Ohio at a cost not to exceed $2,600. Item number 3, approval of police department request to send Deputy Chief Gahn to the International Association of Chiefs of Police Conference and Exposition from October 18 through 22, 2025 in Denver, Colorado at a cost not to exceed $2,700. Item number 4, approval of police department request to purchase Bradford Systems Corporation evidence storage lockers at a cost of $36,966.72. Omnia Partners contract number R240109 pricing. Item number 5, approval of payroll for period ending June 13, 2025 in the amount of $1,132,699.29. Item number 6, approval of payroll for period ending June 27, 2025 in the amount of $1,112,546.54. Item number 7, approval of bills for period ending July 7, 2025 in the amount of $2,777,075.76.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by trustee
Garner.
Second by trustee Ross. Roll call, please.
Garner.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Balmas.
Aye.
Thorstensen.
Yes.
Woodside.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
6 aye.
Motion carries. No petitions and communications. On to reports. Presentation by District 121 Superintendent Dr. Danny Roosman. Warren Township High School update. So, Danny, you may take it off. I would just say that our relationship with the high school has just been awesome, and I just have really appreciated our relationship to. This is year number 3. I'd say 3.
I don't remember now.
I don't remember either. But it just, Warren means a lot to me. I'm a graduate of Warren, and I think I think a lot of the way the high school's run. I think that since you've come, there's also been just a lot of great energy that's come as well. So thank you for all that you do, and looking forward to what you have to say tonight.
I appreciate it. I'll keep drinking enough coffee to keep that energy up. Mayor Hood is right. We are very appreciative of the relationship that we have with the village. I've worked in a few different states and multiple school districts, and the community here is very special. I think mostly that's because the individuals that are working and volunteering and the different organizations that work together are very committed to the community. So I'm always surprised at how many people say that they are born and raised here in the area, and they stick around and they contribute back and they give back. So it's really been a pleasure to be here and get to know the community. Let's see, as an example of I think, a really good partnership, we've met with the mayor a couple times just recently, and I think maybe next week have another touch base with him to talk about our internship program and how the community can support the school district's internship program, which I'm going to mention here in a little bit today. So I appreciate the mayor and his outreach there. Let's see, I threw a few things in front of you, so before I get into what I prepared, just want to walk through those. One is we're trying now, after the referendum passed, since the referendum, When I came on board, a lot of people said, hey, it was really important for us to understand what's happening in the school district. Why do you only tell us these things when you're asking us for money? So what we're trying to do is twice a year, once in the fall, once in the spring, we're trying to send out a mailer. So you've got 2 mailers in front of you. One is the most recent mailer that just went out in the winter. It's got pictures of our 2 principals on front. It's got 2 awards that we recently received this year from U.S. News National, one of the best high schools in the nation, and we are on the National AP Honor Roll. And inside of it is a financial update, an update on what we're trying to do to help students prepare for their careers, and then a handful of fine arts activities that the school did this last spring. So we're hoping that by pushing information out to the residents of the community, most of which here are part of the village, that they'll be able to understand how they can interact with, get involved, and participate in what the school is doing. So if we give that to them in the winter, early spring, then they can know what's happening. It's a little bit difficult sometimes if you don't have children or grandchildren in the school district to know about all the things that are happening. Probably some of you can attest, even if when you have children in the school district, it's hard to know everything that's happening. So you've got a copy of one of those in English that just came out here late winter. And then you also have a version in Spanish. That one's from the fall, just to show you kind of a different, how the different mailers look. They're all a little bit different, have some of the same feel. We try to update community members on what's happening in the school district, as well as give them some type of financial or operational update. You'll see those in both situations. The English version is mailed to every mailbox in our taxing, that pays taxes to the high school. So you don't have to have a child or grandchild to get this. It shows up in your mailbox. We think that's really important because all of these people contribute to the success of the high school. On the Spanish one, specifically, I won't play it for you today, but there is on the top right-hand corner a QR code that is a link to a video. And we're trying to just, not only through print, but also through video, help make sure that our community understands what we're about at Warren, some of the great things that are happening at Warren. We use that video in a handful of different situations. When we have 8th grade night and all the parents come in, we show that video to them. I just this morning had a few minutes with 7 new staff members for their onboarding. They just started today. Today was their first day. We show that at the beginning of their onboarding session to help them understand what a special place Warren is. So after tonight, if you get a chance, please check out that video. We're really proud of it, and we think it's a good thing to share to help people who may have questions about the village or the schools here in the village to see what we offer. Pat helped me figure out what people's shirt sizes were, so we'll see. We've got a handful of t-shirts there. They are like 100% cotton, so you might want to size up. Be soft, but I have to size up. Otherwise, I feel a little self-conscious when I wear it after it goes through the wash one time. Let's see, I think that's everything. Oh, I also gave you a copy of what we call our career guide. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. So just as a reminder, Warren Township High School covers about 50 square miles. Right now, we're at about 3,500 students. We serve a handful of different communities, and our foundation elementary school districts are Gurnee 56, Woodland, that should say 50, and Milburn 24. Our enrollment has been decreasing. This has been part of our story for probably the last 10 years. I included, let's see, that looks like about 6 or 7 years. This last year, 2025, we don't have final numbers yet for another month while the state gets us their reports. But we'll probably land somewhere in the low 3,500s, maybe 3,500 flat. So we had a big boom. There's a lot of growth, and we did a lot of building, a lot of expansion, and then our student population has declined here over the last couple of years. People always ask me if that's on trend with other school districts, and I would say yes, but it's not on trend generally with the population here in the county. So the yellow is, I'm pulling this from some type of public database. Can't remember exactly where, but generally I think the population in Lake County has not decreased in the same way that our school district has. So, but the decrease in population for the school district is pretty consistent. We see that around the state, and really foundation school districts, so Gurnee and Woodland specifically, they also have seen that population shift. It's pretty easy at a high school to predict population shifts because we just knock on the door of the elementary schools and ask them what their 5th through 8th grades are. We do project that will continue to decline in enrollment and probably plateau around 3,000 students in a few years. The impact that that has on a school district generally is that you have to start prioritizing the different types of programs and how you allocate resources to programs. So we've had to, over the last couple years, not because of a funding problem, but more so because of enrollment, we have had to start saying for some of our classes that we don't have enough students signing up for them, so a class might not run. If you have a high school class and there's 4 or 5 students interested, we won't run that class. If there's 10 or 12 students interested, we probably won't run it. But if we can get to 15 or 16, then we'll most likely run the class. With 1,000 more students, or 1,000 less students, that math changes and you'll have more classes that don't hit that threshold. The same thing happens with athletics, activities, and clubs. Generally, the larger you are, the more students you have to populate some of those athletics and clubs. But 3,000 students for high school is very healthy still, and we should be able to offer and continue to offer most things that most comprehensive high schools offer. This doesn't worry me. I don't think it needs to worry anybody. It plateaus after that. Our elementary schools see a plateau after that, and so the schools will just feel slightly smaller. We're really proud of some of our big picture information about the school district. Our graduation rate hovers between 92 and 95%. This last year was at 93%. The state average is 87%, so we're really proud that we're able to exceed that. The 12-month college enrollment for our students is almost at 80%, which is significantly better than what happens at the state with 70%. One of the shifts in the state of Illinois is a push for students to more seriously consider career studies or career courses. In the prior 20 years, there's been a real push to try to make it so all students are prepared for college or university, and probably around the kitchen table over the last 10 years, you've been in conversations with people who have said, how come they don't offer this type of course anymore? We all took a shop class, or I took a auto class. And there just hasn't been as much of a push at the state level. About 3 or 4 years ago, however, that started pivoting right before, so maybe it's like 5 or 6 years, right before the pandemic hit, the state pivoted on that and said, hey, we probably have been missing a part here. We need to really push both sides of the spectrum for students, make sure that students have all doors open to them and they understand all of the opportunities for them. So in our school district, students that participate in a career course is at about 37% of our students. Most of them are upper class students at 11th and 12th grade at Almond. Most of that is students that are going to Tech Campus, which is a great program just right in our backyard. The state average, however, is at 48%. This is an area that we need to improve. So I showed you a couple things that we think we're doing really good at, and also an area that we really need to rethink. Typically in Lake County, a lot of school districts, including ours, have kind of outsourced our career courses to the Tech Campus. And we're trying to figure out how to bring some of those courses back in so students don't have to choose whether or not they want to stay on campus and take a traditional liberal arts type of high school career or course sequence, or if they want to travel off campus, give up a little bit of being on campus and go off campus to participate in the Tech Campus option. We're hoping that we can increase what we offer in-house. One of the ways that we're doing that and trying to build awareness with that is through some publications like the one I put in front of some of you. I could only track down 6 of these, so there's booklets kind of in between every other of you. Typically, when a high school student is picking out courses for the next year, they do that in the fall. So November, December, January, maybe in the winter, they're looking at a list of courses that they can take next year, and they're picking out, oh, do I take Algebra 2 or Algebra 2 Honors? Do I take French 3, or am I done with foreign language? I don't want to take any more foreign languages. Well, we put a lot of energy and effort into that career guide that goes home with all students to just help them understand courses that we have and offer and how that relates to life after high school. So if you look through that and page through that, there's a handful of different categories of career options that students can consider. It describes the career options, a handful of different specific types of jobs, and then the average income for that type of job or that area of employment if they have a high school degree, an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, or a post-bachelor's degree. Some of that data in there is Lake County specific, just to make sure that we're helping students understand what options are available. That's something that we're doing and something that we're putting in front of families and students to try to help us in this area that I think we need to do better at. See, attendance is a hot topic around the country. Since the pandemic, a lot of students and families have struggled trying to figure out how to make daily attendance a regular part of their life again. We've seen that struggle. So you'll notice in 2020, our attendance was at 96%, and 2021, it dropped. So 20 was that first pandemic year, and we basically gave kids credit for the attendance that they had the first half of the year. But after that, we've dropped at 90, 92%, and the rest of the years have been the same. So we've been at around 91 or 92% since 2022. And this is a pretty significant change for a school district to drop 3 or 4 percentage points in attendance. That means that there are a lot more, usually what it means is there's a lot more students who are missing a large number of school days. The number of students who might miss 1, 2, or 3 days stays about the same, but the number of students that are missing 8 or more days, which is a high number of school days, increases. And it's hard to engage students and keep them involved and make sure that they're passing their classes if they're missing that many those many days of attendance. Just an update on the referendum from 2022. So that's when I started. So that is 3 years. I started 3 days after the referendum.
You're very brave.
Yeah. So this was a 60-cent increase to the district's tax rate, which equaled about $17 a month for a $100,000 home. The average Gurnee home was an extra $50 a month. So we made 3 big commitments as part of the school board made 3 big commitments if that referendum passed. The first was to preserve the 8-period day and not go down to 7 periods a day. The second was to restore and protect activities, clubs, and athletics, which are a high cost to the school district but aren't required or state mandated. And the third was to improve academic supports and mental health services. So just to report back on a few of these, we have fortunately been able to just keep that 8-period day and make sure students have that extra period every day to take courses. Some of the courses that we've been able to add in the last few years include career-based courses like music production and graphic design, technology. A course that's on there that just blows my mind is that we have students this last year who are in a dual credit Calculus 3. I thought I was meeting really smart kids 20 years ago when they were taking Calculus 1 as seniors. We've got students who are taking Calculus 3 and getting college credit for that. And then, as I mentioned before, we have this upcoming year, our first round of re-implementation of an internship class. This is a class that's been on the books for 20, 30 years, but just had not run for the last 10 because of the state focus on college entrance. So we have about 60 students that are in that course next year. Half of them are doing internships on our campus, either helping teachers, helping in the cafeteria, helping facility workers, helping our secretaries, just support around the school district. And then about half of those, we're going to work in the fall to get out into the community and find really, I would call them micro internships for part of the semester. The commitment to take care of our athletics activities and clubs is something that's been really fun to focus on. So we very quickly were able to restore the non-varsity feeder teams that we had started pulling due to funding, and just we've been able to add some programs. So just this last year, for example, We now have a girls' flag football team, which I'd encourage you to come out and watch. Even watching the practices are amazing. How many girls are out there hitting it hard on the football field every day. We now have a girls' wrestling team that we've been able to add, and we have an esports team, which is a big thing. You get kids that come together and they play video games competitively against other schools. Sometimes everybody's in the same room. Sometimes they're playing a school that's in their own a team that's in their own school, and they're just playing through the interwebs. It's pretty cool. I wish I had something like that I could do when I was in high school. In terms of supporting academic and mental health, we've been able to add staff here, which is a pretty significant impact on students. We've added 2 psychologists to double the psychologists that are available to our students. We've been able to add a counselor at each campus, so 2 counselors that are specifically there to support bilingual families. Spanish is their native language, and they're able to interact with students and families in Spanish. We have lunchtime support programs, which are new for us. This is basically like a forced study hall, and instead of having the study hall after, it's like forced tutoring, not forced study hall. It's like forced tutoring. So instead of having tutoring available after school, which we do have, and students can choose to come, and if they need help, they choose to come, or if they need help from a teacher, they might choose to come before school. This, instead of a student struggling in some of our core courses, like an English, math, social studies, or science course, they don't get to go to lunch anymore. They have to go to tutoring during the school day when we have them. We can kind of control better where they're at and some of the decisions that they make. And important, a couple years ago, we hired a security director just to support the safety in the school district. We've got a couple big, exciting projects that are coming up. As you drove here and have been driving over the last couple weeks, you probably noticed phase 3 of our roof project. So the O-plane roof. My first week of school, when I got hired, when school started, I was at O'Plain one of the mornings just to greet students, and it was raining on that day, and there were buckets in the hallways to collect the water that had been coming through, because the financial struggles of the school district for the prior 5 to 6 years, and probably before that, had prohibited us from just regular maintenance and facility upgrades, and so we had deferred so much maintenance that we had constant leaks through the ceiling. I was really excited that we are now in a position where we can be replacing the roof at O'Plain. It's such a large project that it takes 4 years to do. We only have so much time over the summer, but you can drive by that and see that on a daily basis. As soon as that's over, we'll start the same project over at Almond, because the Almond building's been there long enough now where that original roof needs replacing. Another big project that I'm excited about is a locker room addition here at O'Plain. If you went to high school and you were at O'Plain, you probably were downstairs in the basement to visit that locker room, and I'm guessing no matter how long ago you went to high school, it was kind of gross back then. And I tell anybody in the community that wonders why we're doing a locker room addition, I tell them I would love to take them down to the locker room at O'Plain. It's pretty rough down there, and because of the water level, we have pretty regular flooding down there and some sewage problems that come up every time there's a hard rain. So putting kids down there on a regular basis every day to change is just not a really good spot for them. So we are, this view here is, if you're coming up out of the football stadium up to your car parked in the lot, there's kind of that hill, that grassy hill or grassy knoll right there. And to the left is the school. That's the view. And so everything that you see there is mostly new. There are some stairs. You can see this. So this whole section here will be new. This is the field house that exists there right now, and this paved area is there right now. But right here is where the tennis courts are. And they've just kind of been overgrown over the last handful of years. We built new tennis courts at Almond. And so these tennis courts are just sitting there with some fencing around them. And right here is an old staircase that you can get into the school from, but you might slip if you or bang your foot when you go up there. So here's just an image of where it's at. This is the north parking lot. This is the south parking lot, and the stadium. We're somewhere around here, right? I think. And the red area is where that locker room will be. It'll have lockers for the PE classes, separate lockers for the athletic teams. That's normal at a high school. The athletes keep their gear in those lockers during the day, and PE classes have a different set of lockers for their classes. It'll have trainers' rooms, so if a kid hurts themselves, there's a room there to support or help those students. Some staff offices for the PE staff, a laundry area with some ADA accessibility issues that we're addressing as part of this, and then we're bringing the boys' swim locker room up from the basement as well. So I think that's my spiel, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have for me right now, or not. That's okay too.
No, I'll say to my left. Anybody have questions?
I had a question, on the new locker room, the old locker room. What are you gonna do with that space?
Yeah, we're just gonna use it as storage, so we'll throw some pallets in some areas and store items down there.
Sure.
Yep.
Yes, to my left. Nope. To my right. Trustee Thurston.
Hi. I see in the brief, finding the name of the right one, you have annual review of long-term financials as one of your key initiatives for this year. And so I was wondering if that includes discussion on long-term either enhancement needs or the feasibility of selling and using the third school land on Stern School?
Yeah, great question. So the financial review primarily does two things for us. The first thing that it does is it projects out into the future where our fund balance is. The problem that Warren ran into in the past is that its fund balance became so low that on any given month towards the end of the school year, we had to borrow money to make payroll. So we're looking out 5 to 10 and 15 years to make sure that our fund balances are included in that, are going to be in a healthy situation when you consider all the different things that we have to pay for. One of the major things that we have to pay for, and part of that long-term financial review has been a 10-year facility plan. So we've looked at, the roof is an example, we've looked at all of our facilities and the different costs associated with upgrading or upkeeping those facilities, and we've baked that into the 10-year financial outlook. Right now, we're in a healthy financial situation. Mostly because of the referendum, we're able to keep the programs that we have and maintain a healthy fund balance. Those are the two main things that we talk about with that financial review. We bring in a third party, in addition to the auditor, we bring in a third party forecaster to go through that so that our school board's getting 5 to 10 or 15-year forecasts from our internal finance team as well as this external finance group. There isn't a lot of conversation around selling that property right now. I think generally, most likely out of pocket, probably the most likely scenario that we would have to sell the property would be if there was some way we could confirm that there wasn't going to be new development there in the next 20 to 25 years. The minute a large development happens in the area, we run into a situation where we're not sure if we can hold all the students there. So right now, the plan for that property is to just hold and see where the future takes us.
Okay, thank you.
So just commend you, just all the excellence in the sports programs and the students. I mean, the classes that Warren now offers, I never imagined when I went to school having an honors class was a big deal. So all the other things that you guys offer, I just really appreciate that. And the impact on the village, I think it's having great schools has such a great impact on us. Sometimes that isn't seen, I think. Just assume that they're good, and there's a lot that goes into it, and I appreciate your investment in that. So
Yeah, thanks
thanks,
for having me
Danny,
tonight.
for coming tonight.
Yep, have a good evening.
Okay, on to no old business and on to new business. Item number 1, approval of ordinance 2025.
51.
Approving a professional service agreement with Malin and Associates, Inc. for restaurant and retail recruitment and development advisory services.
Sure. So I'll give a quick overview, and then Alan's got a presentation here to go over. As you know, when it comes to economic development staff, Alan's pretty much it. So we've heard people talk about Ellen or staff in the past. Ellen is a staff, so she gets some assistance from some other folks, but she's the main person in charge of economic development efforts for the village of Gurnee. I liken it kind of like village engineer Leach. There's only so much of his time that can go around, so in some instances, you need to bring in some outside assistance. We feel that this is an instance where Ellen could use some outside assistance, got some specific properties in mind. So Ellen's done some research, come up with what she thinks is a good game plan to provide her that needed assistance on a short-term basis, see what results it produces, then decide a path forward after that. So not to be repetitive, I'll let Ellen kind of review the contract that's before you for consideration. And then Mr. Mallon's here as well to take any questions and introduce himself to the board afterwards. So.
Thank you, Pat. I am very pleased, very excited to be bringing this forth this evening. I have known Mike Mallon for close to 20 years. His firm is based in Wheaton. It specializes in retail real estate, development, brokerage, management, advising. So as we know, restaurants are often on the leading edge of revitalization in certain areas, and in areas that are already strong, they can complement the mix. So we've selected some sites to target through this effort that fall into both of those categories. So a little bit about Mike. His bio is extensive, so I will summarize and I will preface it. I've known him for 20 years, and in my mind, he embodies public-private partnership, and that's something I think we do very well in Gurnee, and that's why I think he'll be a good fit to work with us in this regard. Mike actually began his career in the public sector as Director of Planning and Zoning for the Village of Lombard, but most of his 45 years in commercial real estate have been in the private sector. Mike served as a Vice President of Real Estate for Jewel Osco and Dominic's and has developed over 220 grocery store and drugstore projects through a 12-state region. He founded Mallon & Associates in 2005 and then joined forces with Draper and Kramer in 2012, and the company together specializes in that group of retail services that I mentioned a moment ago. So Mallon & Associates itself is responsible for the development of over 5.2 million square feet of commercial real estate throughout the Midwest and serves a variety of public, private, and institutional clients. Mike's personal list of accomplishments and his professional credentials is long, so I won't go through all those, but I do know that he's very proud of the work that he does mentoring and teaching. So in addition to what you see here, his roles with the University of Illinois and John Marshall Law School. He's also a board member, mentor, speaker for the Harold E. Eisenberg Foundation, which has a dual mission, and as part of that mission, they nurture students pursuing commercial real estate careers. So this slide represents the breadth of clients that Mike has worked with over just the past 24 months. I will tell you, after doing this for a number of years, that anyone meaningfully involved in retail real estate in Chicago knows Mike in some capacity. They probably worked with him, and they are aware of his reputation for serving both those public and private clients with distinction, and regardless of which side of the table he's on, and long after the deal has been negotiated, continues to advocate and keep them in mind for projects. So one of those public sector clients is the Village of Glenview. Since 2022, Mike has been retained by the village to recruit restaurants. You see some of the renderings of the ones that are coming online here, some as soon as this summer and some as soon as this fall. As a resident of Glenview, I have a front row seat to this, and this is honestly part of the reason we're having this conversation this evening. A new Let Us Entertain You restaurant opened in the Glen recently, and in the traditional downtown, which is not the Glen. There's the Glen, and then there's the traditional downtown where the metro station, the older part of town. 7 new restaurants have opened in the last 2 years in the downtown, and a mixed-use development that's coming online with retail and apartments. So these results are incredibly exciting, obviously, but I also think the process warrants some highlighting. Some of the things I think the village and Mike are doing really well together. Residents are weighing in on the type of development they want to see and where they'd like to see it. The village is supporting existing restaurants, not just bringing in new, but they're supporting existing restaurants with capital investment grants. Does that sound familiar? To help make sure that they can invest and expand and grow. They are working hand in hand with property owners to try to make their properties more suitable for restaurant development. Maybe move a tenant, maybe add a parking lot, maybe add an outdoor dining area so that they are in a good position to attract a restaurant. And then lastly, they're creatively repurposing sites that were previously occupied by non-retail uses, and that will now have a new life as a restaurant. So really great to see the community building that's going on, in addition to, obviously, the great results. So in a nutshell, the reason this is all so successful is that public-private partnership attitude, mindset, approach that I think both parties are bringing to it. So the way this works is Mike identifies restaurant concepts that his market analysis has suggested will be successful. And if it fits the village's vision that they have developed through the course of talking with the residents and, giving it a lot of thought, he makes the outreach to the restaurant. And then drawing on his expertise as a developer, he can review the pro formas, advise the village on what's really going to be needed to get that project across the finish line, identify any gaps, and then, obviously the village is his client, so he's advising them, and they're supporting these efforts, the investment, through grants primarily and some forgivable loans as well. So how does this all translate to Gurnee? So why this approach, and honestly, why now? Well, part of why now is because what I'm seeing certainly in Glenview, but my goals, our goals, I think, for this project are destination retail and restaurant can act as a catalyst to further development in areas like East Grand Avenue, like the Washington Street corridor, including the Triangle site that we're very focused on south of Six Flags. Even in the traditionally strong areas of town, like Grand Avenue near the tollway, filling a vacancy with a complimentary restaurant raises all boats. It enhances and optimizes the mix and benefits surrounding businesses. So in addition to those, one of our goals, frankly, is to preserve prime retail sites for retail. You might have noticed that there have been a few instances in the last couple of years where very well-located prime retail sites got snapped up by a service use. Many of them happen to be banks. And that's, that's the private market. They can move with speed and they have the resources to do it, but I think if we are being more proactive on our end to make sure that we have a retailer or a restaurant lined up so that they can move quickly too, and maybe knowing what their resources are and that they have our backing, they can be more competitive. So that's the third goal. The approach, the proposed agreement, as we've structured it, would begin with a deep dive to understand the market on a macro scale, define the trade area for sites that we identify, connect with property owners to understand their timelines and their objectives, recommend retail concepts that are relevant for a given area, which obviously is going to be different depending on the part of town, reach out to prospects regarding our opportunities, and then Mike will bring any prospective deals back to the village for our deliberation, potential action, and facilitate any negotiations, serving as our advisor through the end product. So on this map, we've identified some target sites, but if other opportunities arise, obviously we're going to remain flexible, both to meet the retailer's needs, and also maybe some property owners will come forth and say, what about mine? So how these sites were chosen. On East Grand Avenue, the current food and beverage offerings are limited. And many area residents have indicated, they've got, we've got an active group, they've indicated they're interested in a greater variety, coffee, bakery, multiple types of restaurants. So there's demand here and there's opportunity. We'll start by focusing on two sites, the former Sussman Linoleum Building and the Gurnee East Point Multi-Tenant Center at Belle Plaine. Then moving down to Washington Street, west of Route 21, commercial development drops way off. And what there is primarily service and office, not retail. So we'd like to carry that retail further west down the corridor. Washington is not Grand Avenue. This is a phrase I've heard many times, but it does carry moderately high traffic counts, and there are rooftops around it. So, and obviously the Triangle site is there, and so it's a clear choice for recruiting restaurants. There's a term that I like to use called eatertainment, and I'm not the only one I haven't quite been made that up, but it's eatertainment, entertainment and dining together. So that's the chicken and pickles. That's the things that we think would be just so dynamic for this site. And then the two cemetery and Washington sites, the northwest and southeast corners, were chosen because of the existing commercial already at those intersections, and also because there are pads at the hard corners, which are always attractive to retailers and restaurants. So lastly, Gurnee Mills. The last target site that we've identified is an 8,000 square foot space at Gurnee Mills that was formerly occupied by the Corner Bakery. You probably never even noticed it because it's been walled over for so many years now, but it is really just about a pin dot on a 2 million square foot mall at 8,000 square feet, but it is really a nice size for a restaurant. It's ample space. It is located right next to an anchor, Bass Pro Shops, and it has potential for outdoor seating. So with Gurnee Mills' blessing, you know, they're in agreement that this is worth really taking a dive at. So we'll see if we can find a good user for that. And then beyond these targets, which are our top priorities right now, may change, there are 2 additional sites that we'll take a look at. The former IHOP/Hooters site has been vacant for some time, as has the former Computer Systems Institute across the street. There are reasons in both cases, but we think with some expertise, we can take a little bit deeper look and see if we can find the right match for those. So Mike has toured the area. In fact, as recently as this evening, he was on East Grand, and agrees with us that these sites are, you know, the right ones to start with. They have attributes about them that are supportive to retail and restaurant, but the first step, of course, will be that market analysis to really dig in to make sure that when we reach out to restaurants, they're ones that will be successful or can be successful. I've seen it many times. I'm sure Mike probably has too. Too many communities fall into the trap of having a wish list. Sites we want filled and retailers we want to attract, and they don't always have the sophistication to marry up those two desires. So that's what the market analysis and the trade area confirmation does. So the proposed agreement structure mirrors the Village of Glenview's, which was initiated in 2022 and extended through 2026. We'll start out with a 6-month term at $7,000 per month, same as what Glenview is paying, for the scope of services shown here. And if additional time beyond that 20 is required, then with village approval, it would be billed hourly, and expenses will be billed, as is customary, at 105%. So to sum up, respectfully, I would suggest that this is the right time to do this and the right approach, and I think the right partner. Gurnee's clearly fortunate. Our retail sector, including restaurants, which is a subset of retail, is strong, but as we discuss often in this chamber, that takes vigilance, you know, to keep it that way, to keep the mix optimized and enhanced. And we know the restaurants are one way to do that. In strong areas like Grand Avenue, it's an enhancement, and in areas that are a little bit underutilized, it can be catalytic, honestly. So East Grand Avenue is a strategic priority for us. We have an engaged group of residents. Let's work with them, and here, you know, they've expressed an interest in more dining options. Bringing more retail to Washington Street taps into what's a pretty high traffic count. It's not as high as Grand Avenue, clearly, but it's moderately high, and rooftops. And as regards to the Triangle, recruiting restaurants, especially that blend of dining and entertainment, couldn't be a more perfect fit for what I think our concept is that we'd like to see there. It's a good place to start building momentum. So, and the right partner. So Mike's career has been truly built bridging the knowledge gap between the public sector and the private sector, trying to get them to see each other's perspectives and come to a happy middle over time and again. So the more informed and precise that we are as a community when we make that outreach, the more response we're going to get and the more successful we'll be. So with that, I'll gladly take any questions from the board, and I would like to introduce Mike Mallon, Managing Partner of Mallon & Associates.
Is this the point where I say something?
Well,
I'm not sure that I could say anything more than what you've already shared with the group, but I certainly, as my wife would say, I'm never short on words. Thank you, Ellen. I do appreciate the introduction, and most importantly, I appreciate the opportunity to potentially work with you hand in hand in terms of, if you will, redeveloping and bringing in some new retailers into the community. I think one of the things that I've always focused on in my career is building relationships. And particularly in commercial real estate and in retail, it's a lot about relationships. There's no doubt about it that retail, real estate, as we all know, is location, location, location. But one of the things that I have found that I try to do, which is to set myself apart from other developers, other brokers out there, is educate. And I think certainly as municipal volunteers, elected officials, as well as staff members, one of the biggest challenges we always have is to be able to educate the person on the other side of the phone call, certainly on the other side of the desk. And that's really where I think I can excel, is I'm able to take my market knowledge and bring that into these relationships and then to educate the decision makers, whether it's at the public level or if it's in the corporate boardroom. And it's very easy to say no in the world that I operate in. And what I try to strive for, obviously, is to get a yes and to get things done. And I do that with something that my boss at Jewel Osco used to say to me, Mike, we're going to confuse them with the facts. And you've got a lot of very positive facts in terms of your demographics, in terms of your existing businesses, that I think we can rely on to help us get to that next level. Gurnee is an unbelievable community. You know that. I've never worked with the community before, but I did bring a grocery store here, Dominic's, years ago, and I would be thrilled and excited to be able to work with your team and to work with your community moving forward. So I am here to answer any questions, any comments that you possibly have in regards to what I do or how I get it done.
Thanks, Mike. I'll see. To my right, do you have questions? Yes?
Well, I'm excited about
What's you, Brian?
what you're proposing, and especially the properties that you've handpicked. So I think that's a great start. I do have just one quick question or a statement about representation. I know you represent us, but when a deal actually comes through, then you also actually represent the landowner, building owner, whatever, and or the prospect coming in?
No, in terms of my engagement with Gurnee, I would be representing you. And what I mean by that is I would not be collecting a fee from the retailer. I would not be collecting a fee from the property owner. The only fee that I would be getting is what we've agreed on here, or when we agree on here, but I'm here to represent you. But as I think Ellen alluded to before, it's not as sometimes as simple as who's sitting on what side of the table. And I think it goes back to that educational part of it. And so sometimes I will disagree with you as my client, but I'll explain the hows and the why, and I'll advocate why I think it's in the best interest of the community. I'll never do that in a public setting, but I'll certainly do that, if you will, behind closed doors. And I do the same thing with a retailer when they tell me that they can't afford to come or that the sales aren't strong enough, and I'll confuse them again with the facts and explain to them why they can do this and why they should do this. And one of the things that we just briefly touched on in terms of the workflow is working with your property owners. And as you know, property owners come in all different sizes and shapes and different levels. And so I'm able to work with, if you will, corporate owners as well as mom and pop owners to be able to explain to them why, or first off, what the facts are in terms of the overall demographics, who is the pool of restaurants or retailers that would fit, and then also in terms of what makes a good deal. A lot of times a property owner has a certain expectation about what is the appropriate rent. And I'll go ahead and I'll explain to them, given what the comps are in the area, what other deals are being done, what other properties are being marketed at. And so therefore, if you look at this tenant or this potential deal at this rent, that's going to give you the kind of return that you can hopefully live with.
That's fantastic. So matchmaker with a huge toolkit.
That's a good way to put it. I like to, I served as an adjunct professor for 7 years down at U of I, and my students would often ask me, Professor Mallon, which I always got a kick out of, so what do you do? And I used to say things like I was a developer, I'm a broker, I'm a consultant. But at the end of the day, really what I came to a conclusion is I'm a problem solver. Sometimes we don't know yet what those problems are, or I've also created a few problems along the way. But that's really what it is. It's really trying to fit a need, fit a problem, or as you say, to match up people.
Thank you so much.
Great. Keith Thurston.
Since we talked before the meeting, I have little else to say, I promise. But Ellen does have it all. So she'll be sharing with you all of what you need. So I'm really confident there. And I did find the Savannah bananas that I sent to Ellen. So that's a possibility for our triangle.
I love it.
Milo?
Yeah, you know, we have a saying around here, Gurnee's got it, right? We got everything you need. But for some reason, over the years, you know, we haven't crescendoed or exploded into whatever that is. I'm excited about Gurnee, and we're poised for success. We're poised for a future that we know not of. However, you know, how do we get there? So I'm excited that you're here, and just listening to what you're saying, I know that we can get there because something's missing. And I think you may be the guy to find that out and expose it to us so that we can move forward in these areas. My other question is, my question is, are you going to work on these 6 areas simultaneously, or is one at a time? What's the approach?
So first off, let me kind of comment on your comment, the first one. I don't have secret sauce. I'm not the guy. I work best in a team environment. And as Ellen said before, in regards to public-private partnerships, we all need to collectively work together. And I'll guarantee you that I will be in there pulling the pieces of a project together. I'll also be out promoting the community. And I often find as I talk to other retailers and developers and property owners, you know, they may not know enough about a certain community. They may have an image of a community, a perception, and that perception becomes reality. I mean, I think the word on the street is Gurnee is very, very positive and proactive, and you know, that's where you've got this and where you've got that. But I think by my involvement at various real estate meetings, International Council of Shopping Center events, CCIM, all the various different events that I go to, I will be out there promoting and twisting arms to be able to share the good news about Gurnee, okay? And so your second question in regards to right now the 6 target areas, and I think Ellen, I heard tonight, maybe mention a couple of other areas. We're gonna work on all these together. And I like to always start off in more of a macro and kind of work our way down. I think it's important for me, as much as I think I know about the community, I know a small fraction as compared to what you know and what Ellen knows. So we're gonna start off big, getting a big, strong feel for the overall community, the trade area, which as you know, goes beyond your municipal boundaries, because there are people out there that do shop in Gurnee, and there are people in Gurnee, heaven forbid, that shop outside of Gurnee. So we have to kind of define the overall trade area, and then from there, we'll start to zero in on at least these first 6, 7, 8 target areas. I'm hoping to be able to provide to you what I'll refer to as an action plan, because I'm not the kind of person that goes ahead and focuses in on a 45-page document. I mean, those are fine and they look really nice on my shelf. I want to be able to have a very clear, concise vision of what is available for that target site. Who are the potential target tenants? How do we go after them? And then from there, what's the execution? What's the implementation part? That's where I get my greatest thrill. Ellen, you showed a lot of the work that we've done in Glenview, and I'm so excited about the results that we have happening there. And as I often say to the elected officials as well as to the staff, if you think that that's good now, look into my crystal ball in the next 5 years, because I think we've only started to scratch the surface. Our first restaurant deal that I was involved with which was Ballyhoo Hospitality, which is going to be called the Jackman, is literally opening up this coming Saturday, and one that I'm very, very excited about, and one that many people throughout the Chicagoland area have been talking about. I want them to be talking about what's going on in Gurnee, and I think collectively we can do that together. But the plan is to go ahead and do macro and work our way down and to work simultaneously on these 6 or 8 target areas. And along the way, Ellen's going to call me and say, hey, Mike, what do you think about this? Or what do you think of that? I am a resource. I always want to make myself available. And as I've said with other people that I've worked with, once you let me in the room, Very seldom do I go away.
I appreciate the humility. The other question I had, what is the meaning of dining entertainment? What does that mean? I mean, I get dining, I get entertainment, but
Well, let's put them together. You know, let's go
And what
ahead
does
and
that
let's
look
figure
like?
out a way to be able to extend that time period, whether it's in a restaurant, whether it's in an entertainment venue. You know, one of the things that we're seeing an awful lot out there right now is pickleball, okay? And combining dining in a pickleball experience. So people come and they'll play pickleball and they'll stay around and they'll have a lunch, they'll have a meal, they'll have cocktails. I'm going to go ahead and even throw another, if you will, I don't know what we call it, it's not quite an acronym, but you call it
Entertainment?
entertainment.
Heater-
And when I was doing Dom's Kitchen and Market, we would call it a grocery rant. And that is combining grocery stores with restaurant experience. And so I think the lines of retail are being blurred an awful lot right now. And people are trying to figure out how to capture the dollars in your pocket or what's in your stomach or what they can put in your stomach. And that's why, as we talked about earlier, where I said retail is now back. You know, we survived the pandemic and we're growing stronger now, literally day by day. It's so exciting because several years ago, people were saying, you know, that internet, that's putting you guys out of business. Brick and mortar is dead. Guess what? The retailers that have gone ahead and they've embraced the internet are the ones that are growing. We go ahead and we publish every year a list of all of the new and active retailers in the Chicagoland area. And I'm so happy to report, again this year, that list has grown to over 550 retailers. Half of those are food, restaurant-related uses. So retail is back, and it's not going anywhere. I certainly see the cycle of retail continuing on this for the next 3 to 4, 5 years. It's an exciting time.
thank you.
All right, thank you. So,
So, I
oh,
do.
Trustee Bowles?
So how good are you at making a downtown area?
How good am I at making a downtown area?
Yeah, I would love to see just one time when we do a survey that we don't ask for a downtown, the residents don't ask for a downtown. Of course, the train station is out of, I know, the realm, but
So Mike, you don't know Trustee Bowles, but she's saying this tongue-in-cheek if you haven't figured that out yet, right?
I'm a quick study.
Yeah, I thought so.
well,
You did notice that Trader Joe's was one of the stores that he has on there.
oh, yeah.
So I could be accused
didn't
of
get to-
wanting him to be hired just for that purpose.
I hear that one too. You read the little surveys, but you know, I jokingly have said that we could take the triangle and put a Glen, what do we call that? The Glen, through there with a couple of gazebos or something to make it like a downtown area. And I am doing it tongue in cheek, but it would be lovely for maybe to have an area where we could consider it a downtown.
I'm not sure that we can make
I
it
know.
into the downtown, but I think in my short period of time, looking and driving and focusing in on Gurnee, I think the Triangle has unbelievable potential. It is a prime mixed-use development. So a lot of those same elements that you talk about at the Glen Town Center, where you've got some residential, you've got some retail, you've got some community-based events and services, I think those can be incorporated. And oh, by the way, you've got one property owner. That is a real benefit. A lot of the challenges that downtown areas have, I'm sorry, miss that?
I said, just good luck with that.
Yeah. Well, maybe he's not the right owner. I don't know. But the thing about it is that a lot of the challenges that we do have in downtown areas is multiple ownership. And having them all get on the same page in terms of the vision and the focus and rents and selling. With one property owner or one master development involved there, that's a real positive. So I'm excited about working on that as one of our target areas.
And I would,
Thank you.
I still wouldn't mind the golf thing. You know how
Right.
I've been pushing for that. So, okay.
So is there, oh, did you want to say something?
Yeah, real
Mr.
quick.
Woodside?
I just want to say, I'm excited about this partnership. I think, Ellen is doing an incredible job, but there's so much out there. And this partnership with you seems to make an awful lot of sense, more so than bringing on additional staff and trying to help with that. So I can see real value in that. So I want to preface my question with that. But working with Glenview, and I just happened to drive through Glenview for the first time in quite a long time, driving to the metro station to pick up and drop off family. And it's beautiful. It's impressive down there. It's not all that close to Gurnee, but it's not all that far away either. And if you're going to be doing similar work in both places, do you see the potential for overlap or conflict? And how would you just address that concern?
So I definitely see the potential for overlap, but it's not conflict. And this is one of the beauties as it relates to retail real estate. It's, as I mentioned before, it's so location-driven, and the kinds of things that, give you an example, Ballyhoo is looking for in Glenview is, similar to what they're looking for right now in Hinsdale, similar to what they're looking for in Wheeling. And so because of the relationships that I have, through a community, I believe will help to be able to open up some doors to bring them to Gurnee. So I look at it as a real positive and not necessarily as competing. In full disclosure, I work with other communities, very similar relationship that I have in Glenview. I work with Wheeling. I work with Romeoville. So again, I'm at a point in my career in my life where I really get to pick and choose who I play with. And this isn't really just about money by any means. It's where I think I can add value and I can feel very positive about. I can't tell you how excited I'm going to be on Saturday night for the grand opening of the Jackman, because there was a lot of sweat and tears that went into that transaction, and to be able to see a project like that come together just is very, very fulfilling. I want to have that same feeling here in Gurnee. And it's not so much just to be there for the groundbreaking. I want to be there for the next 2 or 3 years when I can see they succeed. Because as we all know, restaurants don't have the best history in terms of sustaining themselves and being able to make sure that they have the right plan, the right vision, the right property is so, so important. And that's where I think I can help guide that process.
Thank you. Thank you. I think the other question I have, I'll save for the next time I see you, because it's the one that's already been alluded to, and I think everybody's very interested in what your vision or your plan for that triangle is going to be. Got a lot ahead of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so is there a motion?
Motion approved.
Second?
Motion by trustee O'Brien, second by trustee Ross. Roll call, please.
Garner.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Thorstensen.
Aye.
Woodside.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
6 ayes.
Motion carries. Welcome to the Gurnee team. Look
Thank you
forward to
so
what
much.
you can do.
Time to get down to business.
All right,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Thanks, Ellen. On to item number 2, approval of ordinance 2025.
52.
Approving a professional services agreement for audit service with Lauterbach and Amen LLP for fiscal years ending April 30, 2026 through April 30, 2030. Pat?
Sure. So Finance Director Gosnell says this is more exciting, perhaps, than the Malin contract. But been using Lauterbach and Amon since 2016 as our auditors. Had a 5-year contract that expired in 2021. We re-upped it with them, and when we did that, they switched out the entire auditing team. So we had a new set of eyes looking at our financials. Did a 5-year contract then, so that's coming to the end here. Brian and staff have been very happy. with the relationship, with the work they've done, so we reached out to them to request another proposal for an additional 5 years. They came back with a price. When you compare that to the RFP process we went through in 2016, that would have been the third lowest proposal with that price that they came through with the first year. Again, with the contract, they would switch out the entire auditing team again. So again, fresh set eyes looking at our numbers, which is good. Brian referenced some information from the Government Finance Officers Association as far as best practices. And GFOA recommends, if you're not going to switch out the team entirely, switch out the head of the team. We go beyond that, switch out the entire team. So again, trying to keep up with best financial practices. Price for the first year of the contract would be $32,800. Goes up about $1,100 a year after that. When we look to the market and some other auditing contracts that have been approved lately by other municipalities, this is a very good deal from the village's standpoint. And again, have had a good working relationship with the auditing teams that they've switched on over the years. I've been happy with the team and the product, so staff is recommended to continue on with Lauterbach and Amon for another 5 years for auditing services.
Your motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion by trustee Garner, second by trustee Thurston. Sorry. Roll call, please. Well, first, any questions or comments? No? Roll call, please.
Garner.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Thorstenson.
Aye.
Woodside.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
6-0.
Motion carries. On to the last item, public comment. If anybody would like to make a public comment about any item they wish, you may step up to the microphone, state your name. There being none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Balmas, second by trustee O'Brien. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.